friends, it's been a while since I've done a book review and thought I would fill you all in case you're interested, which maybe you aren't. We're going to consult the notebook today in which my book log is. And I made my last book review. I was reading A Long Way Gone by Ishmael Bea and Dave Barry's History of the Millennium So Far by Dave Barry, quite obviously. I had a few problems reading A Long Way Gone because of the controversy surrounding it, and if you would like to know more about that, you can Google it. It was hard because rather than being able to just get into the book, I had to read it more critically than I would usually read a memoir. Next, I read this book called Elephants on Acid by Alex Bowes. I would recommend it so much. It's so interesting, especially if you're into like psychology or even just science. It talks about a bunch of really creepy, weird, bizarre CIA-funded experiments that took place, some back as far as the 1920s and some as recent as 2007. Elephants on acid, the drug LSD, is actually something that happened. If you want to know more about it, maybe you should read the book. Next, I read a book from my school library that's called Growing Up Muslim, and that was by Sumbul Ali Karamali. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was a very interesting book because I like to educate myself about other cultures and other customs. Well, I haven't read up very much on Islam, and so that's why I really wanted to read this book, because it was written by a Muslim woman, and I think the best way to educate yourself on a culture or a religion is to read something that is written by someone who practices that religion or is from that culture. Obviously, I learned a lot about the Quran because what they tell us in school is very different from what you're going to be hearing from someone who perhaps might be a bit biased, but she does point out contradictions. One interesting thing that she says in the book is how if you want to read the Quran, you have to read it from cover to cover because it is in poetry form and you can't just go citing sections of it because all of it ties together, and I thought that was really interesting. I read Old Times on the Mississippi by Mark Twain, and honestly I've never read anything by Mark Twain but that. He's actually really funny. I was not expecting that. Next, I read A Light in the Attic by Shel Silverstein, and that's just a collection of poems. It made me feel like a kid being able to read a lot of those poems, and the thing is, now that I'm older and I'm reading these poems for children, I can see how they're like, it's almost like a two-sided sword. I can see the part that's aimed at the children, but then I can see the part, like a more mature, deeper part that I didn't notice when I was younger. Now to my most recent book I have read, and that is Somebody Up There Hates You, and it is a pre-published book, which means it has not been released to the general public yet, and it's by Hollis Saman, and I really want to love this book. Such a quick read. The plot was just fabulous. I loved the way it was narrated. It's narrated by a 17-year-old boy who has a terminal illness, and he is in a hospice home. He falls in love with a young girl who's also in the hospice home, and I can't give away anything else but that. And I'm pretty sure the book was going to be coming out in September of this year, so keep your eyes out for it. But there is one thing that did bother me a bit about this, and some people would say I'm being hypercritical, but I really feel like this is an issue. The author uses the word gay in a derogatory way. She uses it to describe something that's stupid, and I have personal issues with using that word to mean that because that's not what gay is. Gay is not an adjective to describe something that's stupid or weird. It is a word that means someone who's attracted to the same sex as they are. So that really upset me. The other thing about the book that upset me that's related to this is there's one of the nurses at the hospice home. The main character talks about how the nurse is gay, and he's like, he's never told me, but you can just tell. And I don't like that at all, because that's really just reinforcing stereotypes, and honestly, the author would never have had to say that the character was gay because it did not affect the plot line in any way, shape, or form. That's really my main issue with it, but otherwise, a completely great book, and I wish that the author didn't include those little details that didn't need to be there. All of the books I mentioned, there will be links in the description, so you can go check them out if you want. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope you guys have a nice day. Bye!